Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to Esports Masters League. We are here tonight for Premier 1. It is season number 4. It is round 8 of the championship as we take in the Singapore Grand Prix, my most hated track, from, of course, the Yas Marine... No, not the Mas... the Marina Bay Street Circuit. I knew that was going to happen. My name is James Head. I'm going to take you through the stream, as always, of course, on this fine Wednesday evening. Hope you are doing well. And joining me in the commentary box, fresh from his PS5 Discord, it is Mr. Alex the G. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited because, of course, you'll see some slight surprises on the screen after what has been a long time without set surprises. But yeah, I'm really excited. As you said, um, PS5 Discord, it's gonna look great again, and perhaps not the best venue for it, Singapore. You said it, but yeah, at least it's gonna look brilliant under the floodlights, and yeah, I can't wait to get this underway.
It will, it will. It'll be a fantastic race. I'm absolutely guaranteed of that. If there's anything like PSGL F2, we might get a purposeful safety car or two. I hope not, but hopefully it is going to be a really good night's worth of action, of course, coming into tonight. And I am just having to get a graphic ready on the right-hand side of me because I forgot to put it in. There we are. We can now have a look, though, not at the driver lineup. We can have a look at who finished, of course, in the top 3 last week. Of course, it was Devon, who really rocked the boat, I've got to say, at his home track in the Netherlands, took the win. Rick, of course, who was meant to be racing here tonight, in second that day, and Aurelian finishing in third for Team Shazoo. What did that do to the championship standings? Well, Team Shazoo still lead the way on 282 points. FBR have closed the gap on 247, so by my calculations, it's a 38-point gap between Shazoo and FBR Esports. In fact, it's not 38 points, it's 35 points separating them both. VIR in third on 172, only 2 points separating NLR, though. They're in fourth on 170, ET8 there in fifth on 146, then FRL in sixth on 109, GSP in seventh on 104, Trust Esports in eighth on 95, TTG in ninth on 43, and Outplayed, not Outall-played, in 10th on 42 points. But it is Shazoo leading the championship, of course, Alex, in terms of the teams. FBO, of course, right in behind, 35 points the advantage coming into tonight. Basically, Shazoo, what have they got to do here in Singapore to try and just capitalise on that going into course into the break week for the next race in 2 weeks' time?
Mainly, actually, qualify well, because qualifying is very, very important around this track. As I've just figured, it's just TF10 machine missing, so just one for myself. But yeah, in general, I think qualifying well here is still going to be very, very tough due to just how long this lap is. It's well over 1 minute 30, so about 1:36, probably high 1:35s is what we're seeing coming, maybe even faster than that. But then you also have to figure in this very, very powerful undercut that the Singapore circuit does provide. However, the tires will then suffer as well towards the end. So there's a lot of elements that you have to play, but due to how difficult it is to overtake, probably a good qualifying and capitalize on a good strategy, perhaps even a safety car, will be crucial today.
Yeah, safety cars are plenty in PSGL F2 here on Monday. That is for absolute sure. I think we had 3, 4 in the end in that race in PSGL. Hopefully, nothing to be repeated here tonight, and hopefully it's going to be 31 laps of racing all the way to the checkered flag. It is, of course, one of the longest races on the F1 calendar as well in terms of time. It's with those safety cars, by the way, on Monday. It was over an hour long, so we could be in this for the
Oh
long
my.
haul potentially tonight if we do get safety cars and VSCs to try and disrupt the order and disrupt, of course, the drivers' rhythms out on track. It is a track that does like to do that, of course, Singapore. We'll have a look at the track, though, in question in just a little while. Looking at the driver lineup, though, for the first time you can actually see a driver lineup graphic this season. Marlon and Yabraka, of course, representing VIR. I'm going to get the driver lineup changes as well up on my iPad just to confirm who is going where. And my Discord has apparently just crashed, which is
Oh.
fantastic. Not on my laptop. It's absolutely fine on the laptop. It's just crashed on my iPad. Give me a second. There we go. It's back up. No, it just says, looks like Discord has unexpectedly crashed. What about if I pull up full screen then? No, it just crashes. I have updated Discord on my iPad, so that's probably why. Anyways, Molon and Yabraka representing VIR, Spicer and Grozny in for the Mercedes, of course, of GSP, Gustav and Rydadar, I believe, in, if I'm not mistaken, for the McLarens. I'm going to have a look on the left-hand side just to confirm that. Slayer and Christmas in for TTG. Ace Mustache and Ace Mustache and Ace Impact in for Team Ace. And they, of course, are the French outfit. Devon and Stefano in for FBR. Tom and Jensen, I believe, in for AlphaTauri. Gabrielle and Namechanger in for Williams. Michalizzi and Loney. I think Ginger, if I'm not mistaken, is in for Loney in the Alfa Romeo. And Mitchie, when he does decide to join the lobby. And Nuth are representing TF10. I believe I got those driver lineup changes right. I hope I did. But Marlon, of course, with Yabaka VIR. Honestly, I think this is probably the strongest lineup I think we've had all season in terms of actual team lineups, in terms of actual drivers. There's a lot up potentially for pole position. Which team do you think is going to come out on top tonight? Because it is a real stacked grid, I've got to say.
Yeah, very, very hard to call today. We've got so many strong drivers. And I mean, I don't think the placements of PSGL in this case are even going to matter too much. This is just going to be about who can get this one very, very good lap right. And yeah, I can't really wait. It's so difficult now to call. We've got a lot of contenders, as you said. VIR have got 2 very strong qualifiers. Of course, the PSGL have 1 star, Marlon, really, up top. They've got the race winner, of course, from the last 2 races. The 4th driver to pick up back-to-back wins in EML Premier 1 with Devon, with his teammate Stefano as well. NLR, we actually do have a late change as well, as Gabriel unfortunately could not make it. So it's Keki racing instead of him, alongside Name Changer. But yeah, it's so hard to call. I think the strong qualifiers are really going to be coming on top today, and that's why the lineups are so strong. But I'm seeing teams like Shazoo, FBR, VIR up top. But you never know. There's always a team who can maybe spring a surprise in this session. And therefore, I'm very, very excited to see. By the way, TF10 will unfortunately only field 1 driver because of probably the strangest reasons I've heard so far. Machi's PlayStation Plus has run out, and that is so unfortunate. And Aliyah, the reserve driver, unfortunately is not there either. So it's just going to be Knut today, 19 drivers on the grid. So yeah, tough luck for them. Really unlucky, but it's just how things are sometimes. Super unlucky timing.
Yeah, super unlucky indeed. Let's have a look though at the track map in question. We are in the lobby, by the way. We're just going to transition this from the track map. 5 kilometers length, 3.1 mile, 3 DRS zones, of course, around 23 corners on this track. 1 down the start finish straight, 1 down Raffles Boulevard and towards turn number 7, and then a 3rd DRS zone, which Jess didn't actually mention on the PSGL F1 stream, down in towards turn number 14, and that, of course, is actually downhill in towards the Esplanade, down off the Esplanade in towards turn number 14 at the end of that middle sector split. Let's have a look, though, as we've got beautiful, clear track at this stage. Nobody out on track so far. By the way, you can spot the EML graphic that is shown in the top right-hand corner, and the next level racing graphic that is in beside the qualifying as well. Yes,
finally.
Yeah, just dusted it off completely because it's been so long. I've dusted it off, and now we are pretty much ready to go for qualifying here with 18 minutes, of course, with the Aston Martins, I believe, being the first drivers out on track. Christmas is the one first out on track. Unfortunately, Easter coming before Christmas, but the Aston Martin, anyways, is the first man out on track. Eurovision also coming before Christmas as well. But Christmas, the first man out on track, and he came back to the team, actually, part of the TTG team, which are going to be going under quite a lot of very, very strong changes, I've got to say, in the coming weeks, which, of course, will be informed across social media, I'm absolutely guaranteed. But Christmas has came back to the team for EML Premier. He has been pretty quick in the past in the EML Premier when I've seen him race. How do you think the TTG boys will get on tonight? Because normally we have one of them that is very consistent and then one of them that is very inconsistent. Hopefully they can actually gel tonight.
Yeah, that would be great to see for the team, of course. TTG starting this season, probably one of the weaker links, of course, in this championship. But recently have been picking up some pretty good, at least single driver results, with, I believe, Slayer finishing up in P6 in the French Grand Prix. So there's a lot of potential to be had for that team. But yeah, it would be really great to see a team like this stand up strong again towards the end of the season and against the powerhouses as well in general. I mean, we've got Jensen, I think, starting a lap first for the Shazoo team, who's actually jumped all of them. So Jensen there in that final sector now. rounding these twisty turns under this grandstand section. I mean, it's such a beautiful venue, but will it deliver on the racing? I think qualifying can often be one of the most exciting parts of this race, and well, Jensen's about to put this to the test by starting his first quali lap through 22 and 23.
Yeah, through turn 23, on the run toward the line then with Jensen, on the run down in towards turn 1. Beautiful, beautiful coverage, of course, here from the AlphaTauri, through the left-hand of turn 1, through turn 2, then through the left-hander of turn number 3. Catch the curb there, you can send the car spinning, like I saw on PSGL on Monday. I thought I saw a splash of rain there in the camera lens coming through turn number 5. Bit of slipstream though in effect, the AlphaTauris are working very much indeed. But Jensen is quite a far way back from this toe. He is coming into that toe. 26.6 in the first sector, not too bad at all. But then again, with that toe, not too quick either. Coming through the right-hander of turn number 8, then through the left-hander coming up towards turn number 9, which really, this wall on the right-hand side comes out of you, literally snaps as he nearly crashes the wall on the right-hand side. Now down in towards used to be the chicane of the Singapore's thing, now the left-hander through turn number 10, then through the right-hander turn number 11, across the Anderson Bridge through turn number 12, and then diving straight into the hairpin, literally at the end of the Anderson Bridge, into the hairpin, pretty much like Valencia, through turn 13, and now coming out down in towards the right-hander turn number 14, down the Esplanade we come, 103.3 in the middle sector, exactly on par with what we saw on Monday in PSGL F2 and indeed in PSGL F1 as well. But Jensen coming to the right hander of 16, then to the left hander of 17. This has looked a very much assured lap so far. This man has been honestly absolutely out of luck. He gets so close to the curb coming through turn number 18 and then through 19 and then underneath the underpass at the chicane through 20 and 21 in towards the final couple of corners. This has looked a really, really strong lap from Jensen. Wouldn't be surprised if this is a 35 to begin off the night, and indeed it is.
Wow.
35.5 statement lap from Jensen. Absolutely unbelievable. Jensen currently out on top, might be beaten, but Christmas is a second off already. Jensen with an absolute magical lap to begin off the session.
That was incredible indeed. 35, we're already in the mid-35s with the very first lap. Now he's lining up a toe as well, I believe, for his teammate Tom, who's just heading through this final corner of Sector 1 now. Let's have a look now. Will it work as well for Tom? I think it might work even better here. That's 26.6 first sector. They're pretty much on par. I believe the difference is about 2/100ths of a second. So now through these corners. Oh, Christmas has crashed. Has he crashed on the straight? How has he done that?
How has he done that there?
Oh, that... I don't think I'll probably further comment on this. So, Tom nudges the wall on the entry. That's another one, another wall that comes at you very quickly, more quickly than you might think. Has he picked up some damage from this? I am not too sure, as, yeah, he goes pretty deep now into this Anderson Bridge hairpin down the Esplanade. I don't think he'll be looking too great on this lap. Let's have a look at the split. But a 1:03.4 is still pretty competitive. He might still be on time here to go up the front row for now.
He's going to go around Slayer Stefano. Stefano, for reference, was a 1:03.436, I think, in the middle sector. Tom was slightly quicker than that, so Tom might be on to go ahead of Stefano. Marlon there going fourth as well, but quite a few invalidations already. Mustache Spicer all getting invalidations in. Name changer, I know, the former F1 Esports Challengers man. Be delighted that I said that for about the 10th time in about 2 weeks. Coming through the left-hander now with Tom through 22 and 23. Again, looking like a really assured lap. Comes to the line and goes just behind Marlon at the same time. Same time as Marlon, absolutely to the 1,000th of a second. Jensen though out on top, Slayer there in second, Stefano there currently in third. Richard saying the sound is not in sync with the video. Yeah, I could only apologise. It happened on Monday as well. So unfortunately, you might have to, I think it's only about a second, 2 seconds maybe outside. I'll try and fix it if I can. Otherwise, Jensen out on top, Slayer in second, Stefano in third. Yeah, the sound does like to do a little bit of a hoo-ha now and again. So there we are.
Now we can always blame it on this being the first time with Discord being on PS5. So yeah, keep that in mind. We'll have it fixed for next time, or at least we can say that, which I feel like is pretty important actually for the quality of the stream. So I'm actually really glad that this is now possible again. As yeah, now a lot of drivers back to the pits, of course, having invalidated their laps, having completed their laps. Name changes, one of them who has not managed to get a time on the board, along with his teammate actually of Keke. 26.8 in that first sector, but has invalidated. So I suppose he might get this lap still to the finish, to have some sort of banker for himself, some delta to adhere to. But I wouldn't be surprised either if he just heads straight into the pit lane again. Keke actually known in the NLR circles for having some very concise setups. So I feel like this could be a pretty interesting one. When I ask him later what kind of setup he was driving, I'm probably going to go, wow, that's very interesting, mate. So yeah, I feel like setups might actually be at play for this one as well, in all honesty, due to the nature of the track and how little overtaking opportunities there really are. Perhaps you can overtake into turn 1, turn 7, so after the Raffles Boulevard, and if you're feeling lucky, you can overtake out of the Esplanade into that next hairpin into Sector 3. But all of these are very tricky spots, and I feel like more overtaking will rely on safety cars, tire differences mainly. And, well, after all, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so the driver's consistencies will be a big factor here today. As yeah, let's see now. I think Jensen on an outlap again. So these guys are definitely wasting no time at all here.
Definitely not. Yeah, I've just put in the chat, by the way. Yeah, it normally does fix itself over time. It's weird. I don't know what on earth happens with my sound issue. It was absolutely fine. I tested a little bit early on. It was absolutely fine in sync with the audio. So I think hopefully that is okay. If not, I can easily mute the Elgato and just have no sound and just hear our lovely voices. But I'm sure you guys want to hear the cars out on track as well. I can turn up my TV if you really want me to, if that is going to be any difference. But Jensen out on top, Slayer there in second, Stefano there in third, so far with Moron there in fourth. Good support for NLR, by the way, in the chat. If you are not subscribed, by the way, to the channel, we have put subscribers only mode on, so if you're wondering why you can't chat, just subscribe to the channel and wait a minute, and then you will be able to chat. As I believe we've got Micheletti just starting up on a run, Nuth just starting up on a run as well, and actually he's purple in the first sector, 26-2.
26-2 now, that would be very impressive actually. He was at a pretty quick time though. He's about a 10th off what Jensen has done and actually what Tom has done as well. So pretty solid split time without a tow as well, of course, you have to remember. So now through this middle section, I think track evolution will be a massive factor in this as well, in this night race, of course. Singapore, the track temperature will not be going up that much due to no sunlight really being on that track. 103.6 though in the middle sector. I think this is really where the qualifying drivers, the proper qualifying drivers, will be coming into their own. As Knut might not be one of them, perhaps. He might be a bit more of the racing driver, the race driver who's going to unlock his pace in the race. But right now, yeah, this is still probably on to go towards the top 5. But still, there is a clear difference visible between drivers like Knut and then I think Jensen as well. Actually invalidated on his lap there. But Knut now through the final 2 corners, the German driver, he's in the 30s, just in the 36s, 36.002, goes up to P3, so a good effort from him, but that gap from Jensen is just mighty impressive. Slayer actually in second, can he beat his lap? He's just starting on one, that's a shame.
He is indeed, Nuth, by the way, went third. I've got to commend him for those final 2 corners. Go and watch that back on stream, and don't tell me he went full send into those final couple of corners, gained all of the time he lost in the first and middle sector, back in that final sector split. Jensen though out on top, Slave in second, Nuth there in third. I'm aboard with Stefano at this stage, coming down towards the Singapore sling. Look quick in the first sector. FER though really, I think, need to try and get the trick in, potentially, of slipstream. Devon there in 7th is about a 10th off, and Devon, to be honest, is a very quick man, as I think he's actually on a lap ahead, and that's why he might be going and cheering him on in the background there as he comes in towards 16 and then through 17. Stefano, by the way, 900s up at the end of the middle sector split, 103.3, but Devon in towards the final couple of corners through 18. Underneath the grandstand now at 19, in towards the left-hander, or the right-hander I should say, 20, and then through the left-hander 21. But he's not really looking to shoot, I've got to say, not really on the throttle, coming out at 21, then to the final 2 corners at 22 and 23. Devon now on the run slow. Might go second, and B goes third in the end. Stefano now coming around. I think he's just hit the wall there slightly, coming out of 21. Stefano now for the FER team on the run to the line. Just about keeps it valid. But he might get away with that, I think. 35.7 goes second. He was looking quicker anyways than Slayer, and I think even if he invalidated, he still would have been quicker than Slayer. But Jensen out on top, Stefano in second, Slayer in third, and Stefano very cheekily getting over track limits there through the final corner.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That was obviously not exactly what you want to see, but in the end, you got to do what you got to do. As Marlon is one of the next now in this final sector. I think his teammate as well of Jabraka, currently in P10, but Marlon is looking very committed. Wow, a lot of curbs there as well. Jabraka up to P4 with a 35.915. The Alpine heading into the pit lane in between. Marlon now crossing the line. Where can he go? He goes up to second. Actually beats Stefano by just 0.04 of a second. Behind that we had, was it Spicer? I believe Spicer it was, into P9. And what have you seen?
Tom is on an absolute humdinger of a lap. He's not up in the middle sector. He's not purple in the middle sector, but it's a 103 flat in the middle sector from Tom.
Wow.
This is why I'm on board with him through out of 2021. Just about catches the curb, catches the wall there, gains him a bit of extra speed through the final couple of corners. Tom on the run to the line, goes quickest, 35.4. Absolutely electric from the Shizubo so far. Absolutely sensational. Tom out on top. Jensen in second. Come catch Team Jizu in Singapore, it seems. Tom out on top. Jensen there in second. And Tom with a real worldie of a lap.
That was, I mean, that middle sector split already. 103.0. So close to the 102s. I mean, that in itself would have been impressive anyways. But 35.4 towards the end. Beating out his teammate there. 1-2 for Shizu. So their title hopes are very much underlined with this lap. But yeah, VIR right behind that. We also still have this Dark Horse of Slayer in P5, which I find extremely impressive. I actually love this, seeing these, you know, what you would call quote-unquote underdogs in this kind of situation. Yeah, a lot of drivers, again, they are obviously now suiting up for the final runs of the session. Just 4.5 minutes to go. A lot of them will have to make it to the pit lane fairly soon. Actually, the only drivers without a lap, both FRL drivers of Ginger and Mikulidze. It's a shame for them. They're going to have a lot of pressure in this final run. Yeah, we're seeing some super quick lap times here already, but the gaps, I think this is another characteristic of Singapore. The gaps are pretty big between those top drivers because it just requires so much precision. And Tom's run was so good on this lap. Yeah, you can just see almost 1.5 tenths to his teammate up front, who himself has got almost another 1.5 tenths on Marlon. That is just impressive, and I love to see this. Qualifying is just so impressive from all the drivers. When you hook up this lap, this one lap, it's you can't come close to that feeling, really.
Yeah, definitely not. I'm just, by the way, I'm trying to listen in on my end just to see if the sound is out of sync at this stage.
Oh.
But it seems fine. Yeah, I think it's about a second delay, potentially. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It could be well worse. It could be much worse. I've had a lot worse. Trust me. But
on any edit afterwards, you can always edit the audio to just come slightly later, and then we'll be good again.
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll be good again. It is Tom out on top. Jensen, who was the first man out on track, interestingly, to set up on his final run. Addison compared to everyone else, well, saying that there's a Haas coming out the quick lane there as well. I think that is, of course, Knuth, who was the only Haas, the TF10 man there, the German. But Tom out on top, Jensen there in second. And I expected this, to be honest, to be the front two. What does Jensen now have to do to beat his own teammate?
Well, there's a lot of factors in this. I've read recently that his new wheel arriving is actually not too long ago. So is he already 100% comfortable? Well, looking at that banker lap time of 35.5, you would assume so. But on the other hand, he is maybe not 100% used to this. Maybe that 1% that he doesn't perhaps have could make the difference here. But on the other hand, the 1-2 at the moment, I think it speaks volumes as to how quick these guys are. Then again, in the end, can you even see many changes? Of course, on such a long track, I feel like mistakes are inevitably going to be made from a fair few drivers. But let's hope not. Let's hope we're going to get a very good climax here to this qualifying session, and that some of these drivers can throw in some absolute worldies like Tom has, as he's just heading out of the pit lane behind Jabraka, that is.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see who the ultimate go-to is, of course, here in Singapore. Capital city of Singapore is Singapore, by the way, if you didn't know that. Tom out on top. Jensen there in second, Marlon there in third. Mustache and Ginger haven't left the pit lane just yet. I can spy, though, the Alfa Romeo leaving the pit lane right now. Jensen, though. The man, the myth, the ghost, the out of form Jensen, I may add as well. He has had wretched luck in recent weeks in many different leagues that I've seen. Now coming through the final couple of corners, though, we will see what Jensen can do, and whether him and his Fanatec can get him on pole position coming through the final couple of corners. Man and machine in sync coming through the final corner at turn 23, and now on the run to line on board with Jensen on the run down in toward the left hand of turn number 1 and then through the right hand of turn number 2, and already looking much more assured coming through there. Through turn 3 very much on the power. Gains about a tenth of a second, I think, already through the first sector. Now coming in towards turn number 5 onto Raffles Boulevard. And this is looking very good, nearly too good. Off into the wall there, slight flout of the wall on the left-hand side. But Jensen doesn't have slipstream this time around through the first sector. Doesn't really need slipstream. 26.6 in the first sector, not too bad at all. As he now comes in toward the right-hand turn number 8. It looks assured so far on this lap. Crouch the wall on the left-hand side. It's luckily just end plate, but he knows that and he's backed off. So Jensen is done. May have picked up potential damage on that lap, but he is backed off for sure. Tom is invalidated, but he's just preparing up for another run, so that's why he's invalidated. But Tom out on top, Jensen second, Marlon there in third. Marlon preparing up for lap, Stefano now to the line. Slaver's just started on a lap, but just trying to flick through and see who's furthest on. Devon, I think, is one of the furthest on in the Ferrari. He's coming out of turn number 5, getting very close to the wall there on the left-hand side. Tom out on top, Jensen second, Marlon third. Devon's first sector, 26.650, as Mustache retired, I think, in the pit lane.
Very tight stuff here for Knut, actually. He's just heading under the Anderson Bridge now. He's 300s up in the first sector. Let's see now, 26.7 still, so it's not quite on the time of Tom, but he can still improve on his lap. 2.5 tenths up is the TF10 man, so he is heading close that time, but his lap has not looked 100% assured so far, so he's going to have to pull out some magic in this final sector. As you pointed out, the final 2 corners, extremely committed from the German, so he's going to have to pull out something massive here in these last few turns if he wants to go any higher up the grid. It's so close in that middle pack, but if you want to go high, you have to improve by a lot.
He went too deep in towards turn 20, and I think that might have just put curtains on his lap, potentially coming through the final couple of corners on the run to the line from Nude. What do I know? He goes fourth, 35.754. Very good lap. Marlon, by the way, is giving slipstream to his teammate. That is Yabraka down an 8. So he's clearly had a moment out on track. And Yabraka, in fact, is invalidated. So that was poorly done from them. Tom is also invalidated. So the final runs really not liking this. Stefano, though, 103.4 in the middle sector. He's a bit off through that middle sector. Devon goes third. Rotterdam goes fourth. And Marlon goes 6th there as well. Oh, sorry, Slayer, I should say, goes 5th there. Very close indeed. Stefano now coming through the final couple of corners on the run to the line. Yabraka will also be through this pot. Stefano goes 4th. Shazoo 1-2. Keki now goes 2nd. 35.5. I was about to say it to Shazoo 1-2. Guaranteed. And then an FBR 3-4. Keki comes out of nowhere. He's the man out on track. There goes 2nd. The NLR man spoils the Shazoo party. Tom, though, is out on top. That is the end of qualifying. It is Tom out on top. Keki there in 2nd. Jensen there in 3rd. 3,000th of a second separating Keki and Jensen in the end. Big shot. Keki is due a very big performance, like he showed, of course, in Imola a few weeks ago. Tom, though, out on top. Keki in 2nd. Jensen in 3rd. And Tom, what was nearly a Shazoo 1-2 FBR 3-4, spoiled by one of your fellow drivers.
Well, I mean, what do we even say to this kind of performance? Tom, we've seen he's got some end plate damage now, so it looks like perhaps he's had a little cloud of a wall there on his lap. So is Jensen, of course. And indeed, the Williams man, Enlar Keki, coming in between to finish this quality session in P2. And does this throw a spanner in the works? I feel like this could be very, very interesting here, as we thought we'd have these top 2 teams competing for big glory right up top, but Keke is right there. And I think even in general, we've seen the 2-point gap between VIR and NLR currently in VIR's advantage. And, well, right now, it's looking a tad better perhaps for NLR, as both the VIR guys are in the midfield. But, yeah, as you saw there, Knut was up in P4 at the start of these final runs, down to P9, as I've had that on this screen. That's just how quickly these gaps, these times are evolving. And yeah, we did actually get some very close gaps in the end, so great results, and this is going to be highly interesting.
Definitely so. Big thank you, by the way, to Formula One. The camera angle just panning down there. Tom out on top from Keki in 2nd. Jensen there in 3rd. Devon there in 4th. Stefano there in 5th. 0.2 of a second, covering the top 6, including Rotterdam and that. Slay there in 7th. Marlon in 8th. Knut there in 9th. Top 9, covered by 0.3 of a second. Gustav there in 10th. Name Changer in 11th, Yabraka in 12th, Grozny in 13th, Spies in 14th, Christmas in 15th, 6/10 of a second covering the top 14, Mikulitsi in 16th, Mustache in 17th, Impact in 18th. They didn't really make an impact, pardon the pun, and Ginger there down in 19th position, didn't actually get a lap time in either. We're going to go for quite a slight intermission break. We'll be back in 30 seconds. And we are back live for EML Premier 1. Welcome along, of course, to the Singapore Grand Prix. Only 10 seconds ago until we get the lights out, of course, here with the 5 red lights. And Shizou and FVR look like they're going to do battle once again. Keki, of course, spoiled the party in qualifying, finishing there in second. Whether he is going to play a mix into this race begins. As now the 5 red lights come out here in EML Premier 1 for round number 8 of the championship. And it is eventually, I hope, going to be lights out the way we go. And Tom gets a very good start. Keki as well, a bit slow off the start, but he's actually going to pull alongside in towards turn number 1. It's 3 wide in towards turn number 1. Keki looks to the inside line, nearly Fernando Alonso style to the inside line there. Vettel, Raikkonen, et al. Coming in towards turn number 3. Spinner in the background, that's McLaren round at Gustav. Impact has been caught up in that. Nuth has been caught up in that as well. But Tom there leads the way through turn number 5 for the first time. Keki there in second, didn't manage to get the lead. Jensen there in third, and now Devon right on the back of Jensen, running down Raffles Boulevard for the first time. Keki looks to the inside line, fakes the move, but doesn't get the job done on Tom. Ibraka passes, name change of the F1 Esports Challengers man, trying to hang it all the way on the inside line now for turn number 8. The Red Bull tries to go all the way around the outside, and to be fair, Ibraka just about pulls that one off. Ahead of them, Marlon going at it with Slayer to the inside line, gets the job done. There's a yellow flag in the first sector, and that is Mustache that is round coming out of turn number 8. But Tom leads the way from Keki in second, Jensen third to the first half a lap here in Singapore, and Tom didn't really get a great start, outmastered him coming out of turn number 3. Keki there in second, Jensen there in third, and now Tom put on the afterburners out in front.
Indeed, a great second phase of the start for Keki, who nearly managed to get that lead from Tom, but now Tom himself's trying to pull away as much as he can. He's broken the second for the moment, but it's very, very fluctuating right now, as Jensen, I'm sure, will be trying to put as much pressure on Keki as possible. In the back, so far, we have 2 drivers on the medium compound tires, with Slayer in P8 and Mustache there down in last. So I suppose perhaps the tire change going on there after this lap. But indeed, just the 2 medium tire runners. The rest are on the hards. Now, of course, it is a waiting game for all these drivers. When the DRS gets enabled eventually, this is when we're going to get the most action, as Tom completes this first lap in the lead, almost a second clear of Keki. I think this is probably going for a lot of ERS for the Shizou man.
Ginger, I think, had a spin coming out of turn number 22. I think he got caught on the curb on the inside. Tom as well got caught on the curb on the outside there, coming through turn number 3, but he still holds the lead around a second. Keki there in second, Jensen there in third. They come now down Raffles Boulevard for the second time. The Aston Martin of Slayer trying to eye up Marlon in the background of Schultz. Now going forward with Slayer, who's around 4 tenths behind. Spies and might look for a spying gap to the inside line of turn number 7 at Raffles Boulevard down into a Memorial Corner, and he just about gets the job done. Beautiful on the brakes from the GSP man. Easy as you like from Spicer. He's Boonies into 12. Into the point scoring positions, of course, all point scoring positions out on track as well. Christmas went a bit too deep there in the background. Impact was right on the back of him there and has gained a few positions off the race start. And speaking of positions gained off the race start, Impact has gained 3, Michelizzi's gained 3, Ibraka's also gained 3 in reverse order there. Grosdy and Spies have gained 2, and then 1 position gained, I think, as well from Marlon, name changer, Christmas, who was looking to try and gain 2 there, and Ginger, who has also gained a position. Top 6 have remained as they are, and Tom already blazing the trail outside by a second. A rally in there in the chat saying, let Shizou cook. That's exactly what they're doing at this stage. They are cooking on hot fire at this stage. Tom right on top, Keki in second, Jensen third as we approach the end of lap 2.
Yeah, Keki seems extremely confident as to whether he can hold Jensen behind, but Tom is just on another level right now. 1.4 seconds already after just 2 laps completed, and it looks like, so far, he's looking so assured that this gap is just going to keep getting bigger. But as you said, yeah, 6 drivers there up top, remaining the same. Ginger is out in that final sector. Is that a full safety car? For a virtual safety car for now? Will it change to a full safety car? It really should, but we know this game, it can be a bit interesting sometimes on these opinions, and it looks like it'll stay a virtual safety car unless anything unexpected happens. So a short breather for these drivers right at the start, and perhaps an opportunity for them to recharge their batteries, both literally and figuratively, and yeah, get back going again in a few seconds' time. This is very interesting, and I think this is a welcome break for them.
It is a welcome break for them indeed, and yeah, the car has already gone. Ginger crashed actually underneath the grandstand. I think he got caught on the outside curve, maybe hit the wall, and then cascaded himself into the wall on the left-hand side, through out of turn number 18. So that's unfortunate from him. Down at the back of the field, out of the race. F-roll down to 1 driver with Michelizzi there in 13th. We get back underway to green flag racing. There was a good restart as well from the background by Rodadal. On the back of Stefano, really close to the back of him, coming into Singapore Sling at turn number 10. Of course, DRS is now re-enabled. It was meant to be enabled this lap anyways. and Rodadal's all over the back of Stefano, coming across the Anderson Bridge, looks for the dive bomb to the inside line, bit audacious, and he gets put in the wall by Stefano. Stefano was literally saying, no, you're not coming through there, you should know better than that, and that's exactly what he did. He put him forced into the wall. Stefano there in fifth, Rodadal in sixth, doesn't try the second move in the end, but Stefano having absolutely none of that.
Yeah, I mean, as he should, really. It's obviously not the greatest piece of racecraft, but we see this happen a lot of times. And under this hairpin, it's so tough to overtake, but it is still possible if you're feeling very lucky and very audacious, which is what Rodadal tried there. Unfortunately, not to his benefit. And now he's going to have to face probably a threat of some drivers behind. Stefano, though, did lose out, of course, a little bit of time there on his teammate Devin ahead, but will stay in the DRS regardless of that. So I feel like with this raw pace in general as well, he will probably be staying in that top train, which has separated though. You can see there are quite a few gaps there. Of course, the top three, we don't really have to mention those as, yeah, Tom, Keke, Jensen are in the league of their own a little bit, but Jensen is carrying Devin with him and his PSGL F1 competitor as well with Stefano. So a lot of competitive drivers in here. Will Marlon perhaps look at something here? So he used up a little bit of his ERS on this Raffles Boulevard, but cannot make anything work. He has saved up a fair bit. 100% he had as he was going behind the two colliding, but cannot make anything work just yet. You'd think perhaps the DRS would be pretty effective around here, but is it though? It's not exactly the most effective DRS zone around here. So these drivers will have to rely a lot on their ability on the brakes to want to overtake.
Yeah, it is one of the longest straights, of course, on the on this track here at Singapore. So where else could they put a DRS zone? Coming across the Anderson Bridge into the hairpin, maybe? That would just be ridiculous if they tried to do that. And obviously, maybe down in towards turn number 10 Singapore's thing, that's not really an overtaking opportunity either. So I think they're trying to maximise the potential for overtaking around here, especially being a tight-knit street track. Tom, though, leads the way. Keke there in second. Jensen there in third. And Jensen really beginning to lose a little bit of time. I'm not sure if the Shazoo game plan is potentially for Jensen to drop back and pressurise the FBR boys and just keep them in behind. Regardless, though, he has used up a lot of ERS at this stage, and it seems to me he is still not at home with that new setup, not at home with his car. He's doing in third, and he's doing a fantastic job. But Jensen is normally quicker than this. He's normally much, much quicker and much, much faster. So Jensen there in third. I think that game plan now for Shazoo is trying to maximise that first and third out on track. His impact has been overtaken by Nuth. That was a dive bomb, I think, towards turn number 1 on the left-hand side that I saw certainly. Nuth is through into 16th position. Somebody trying to make the move as well and trying to chase cars as Name Changer. We'll get that if you're a Snow Patrol fan. Name Changer down in toward the left under turn number 7. On the back there of your Bracker, not getting the job done. Slayer as well, 92% of EOS. The TCG man doing very well indeed. Christmas there down in 14th as well is doing a good job. But Slayer, I would have expected them to make a lot more progress on that sort of medium compounded tyres. Now we're getting to the part of the race where the mediums start to go off. Slayer's not going to be really making any much progress, and he's got your Bracker and Name Changer, who are obviously probably two of the quicker drivers in the mid-pack, right behind him. Slayer has got to try and get away now if he's got to think about potentially longer-term races. His Name Changer has a big slide in the background.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Slayer, you would have expected to make... so close to the wall there. Oh, that was tight. That must have been a little bit of a uncomfortable moment for him there. But yeah, indeed, it's the kind of stage where you'd think he'd have to make up some grounds, but in fact he's lost the position overall in these 5 laps. So it's not exactly the plan that's gone to fruition there for him. But yeah, it's really, really tough now for him to make this work. And undercut is not going to be as powerful on fresh hard tires, as they have to warm up a lot over a lap, and therefore it's going to be a big struggle for him to make anything work now. And yeah, at the start you'd expect the mediums to be much stronger, but yeah, this is tough now.
Here comes Christmas giving a present to Micheletti, and that's down the inside and towards turn number 1. Christmas through and he's into 13. Very neatly done, went a bit too deep on the corner. Gustav nearly, I think, went into the back of Micheletti there as well on re-entry. I think he made a slight mistake in the background, and he's now looking on the back of Micheletti through the right-hander as Marlon's getting close to Rodadal, but I don't think he's close enough into the braking zone. Here comes Gustav, though, to the inside line. Now we're down Raffles Boulevard into the Memorial Corner at turn number 7. Very late on the brakes from the E8 man. Nearly forced him on the outside curb, and that is a beautiful move from Gustav to the inside line. You can only but force your opponent to the outside. That's exactly what he did. Nice drive driving there from Gustav. He's doing his into 14th, and Michalizzi dropping down the field.
Good overtake indeed from Gustav. Made everything off that opportunity of the guys fighting ahead. Yeah, Michalizzi now struggling on this new set of hards. And yeah, it looks like he's just not quite up to the task here at the moment. His teammate already out of the race as well. So he's looking very, very difficult now for FRL to regain some good points. But you never know with safety cars around here, as yeah, it's a big talking point every time. It obviously drags the race to unimaginable lengths. But it can throw a spanner in the works for sure, as I'm at the top as well. I actually caught, I think 2 laps ago or so, it was Keki briefly in DRS range for 1 DRS zone or so, but then unfortunately dropped out again for himself. So that gap is now staying fairly similar. But even someone like Jensen will have a hard time still to catch up, as he's running very low on ERS. He's using all of it to try and get into DRS range of Keki, but he just barely misses out, I think, on almost every detection point. So let's have a look. I think Keki is trying to conserve it a little bit more to keep that gap stable, and even still maybe be able to profit from an undercut to the guys behind even, because that's usually how I expect this race to go, as the undercut very, very strong. If you do get on those medium tires, they will be very, very strong. Therefore, the undercut will probably play a big role.
Is he going to go for it? Marlon to the inside line of turn number 7 does. He dives it to the inside line of Moore of corner from an absolute mile back, trying to channel the inner honey badger as he goes to the outside line of turn number 8. And he's nearly in the wall because he went too deep there. That was never on for Marlon. Not sure what he was thinking there, the VIR man. There's ways and means to try and get the job done. Doing a dive bombing towards turn number 7 was audacious. Nearly going into the wall himself was more audacious, I think. Doesn't get the job done, but Marlon just has to bide his time. He is capable of getting that move done, and it just needs to come to him at the right place at the right time. And certainly towards turn number 7, from what, 4 tenths back, that was never on.
Yeah, the man who finished second as well, of course, remember, in PSGL Formula 1 just on Monday. So we know his potential, and he has to just transfer this to the track. The winner from Austria, of course, we can't forget that. He has put in some great performances already for VIR, but it's just a little too inconsistent, perhaps a bit unlucky as well. It's a big slide there out of the turn. That must have been a little bit, well, definitely not calming for him, as he's now out of DRS range of Riedel. The man who he was almost overtaking about half a lap ago, he's now out of DRS range for the moment. If he can get back in, that would be great for him, but I think he's just missed out, and that is not good for him.
And Slayer's in the pit lane early. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Slayer would have been coming in the pit lane very soon. The side steal. Not sure if this is for a foot lane change or this is just purely for tactics and purely to go and just set a whole compound tires to the end of the race. I'm thinking it's the latter. And it is indeed. So the whole companion tires on. Moustache is miles behind. And there in 17th, Slayer putting Moustache down, just like France did in the 2014 Eurovision Song Contest when they represented with that song. But Tom leads the way. Keki in second. Not sure if Keki's made a slight mistake potentially. It's now 6 tenths per second to Jensen all of a sudden. So I think something is that Gustav has gone for a move on Christmas in towards Raffles Boulevard. Nuth has done the same on Michalizzi down that part of the track. Both jobs done through to 12th and 14th respectively. Moustache has picked up a 3-second penalty as well. But Tom there leading the way. Keki in second. Keki for the first time now under real pressure from Tom. Tom has got about 6% more ERS at this stage. Keki there 1.9 seconds behind. Tom now beginning to pressurise. This is beginning to come into the Shazoo playbook very nicely indeed. Jensen hasn't been that quick. Keki though is his hard compounded tyres and that very aggressive strategy in the first 8 laps beginning to tell. As Marlon is crashing 10-14. Straight on.
How's it? Oh, that's a very interesting way to crash. I haven't caught it at all
that's
either, unfortunately. Indeed. How's he gone that far straight? It's also not a safety car intervention or anything like it, but that's VIR being one driver down again. So it's just such a tricky campaign for them this season, as his teammates still in P7 with Jabraka ahead of Name Changer. But this is just such a marred competition so far for VIR. Marlon is out. And I don't think anyone could have seen that coming, particularly at this stage of the race. As you were touching upon Jensen there, I feel like Jensen maybe just needs a tad longer now to get into his rhythm. And once he is, you can see the pace is coming back to him. Keki can't hold a pace, as Tom slight moment to oversteer there, actually, exiting turn 5. But it hasn't cost him too much time. So Jensen, the pace is coming back to him, and it's obviously taking both the FPR guys with him. So it's definitely not a comfortable situation for Keki here at all. As yeah, now the gap between 5 and 6 obviously has opened up with the lack of Marlon there and the overtaking that was attempted from his side as well. So bit of a chasm now. We've got Tom leading by about 2.5 seconds, and then 4 drivers in a little pack there following by. So now the strategy, I feel like, will be decisive. And an engineer who I may not name now for the FER team, yeah, he might have his hands into this to see how many places they can maybe gain.
Yeah, Mr. Joachim, that is, of course, the infamous Joachim from the FER team. Devon on the back of Jensen, doing a great job. Devon is not going to get away with this at all like he did in the Netherlands last week. He's been under pressure, actually, not from Stefano, but more from Jensen. I think Jensen now beginning to up his pace, and he's now really beginning to get into that groove, into that rhythm that suits him so well. And this is not, and I'm going to probably commentate his cursor at this point, this is the old Jensen that we are seeing tonight in EML Premier 1. It might not be the quickest Jensen, the quickest version of him that we're going to see, but this is the Jensen currently out on track. As I say, I don't want to put a commentator's cursor on, I normally do when I say that, but Jensen doing a fantastic job in third. This is his pace, and now, obviously trying to catch Keki. He has saved up a bit of ERS, and there's a yellow flag on his moustache, I think, in the middle sector, coming through the Singapore sling. He has spun, coming through that part of the track. Easy to do on the outside if you get too much on the throttle coming out of the curb. Tom no leading the way, Keki in second, Jensen there in third, Devon there in fourth, and Devon now beginning to apply a bit of pressure, potentially to Jensen. Somebody that is also applying a pressure, still name changer on the back of your bracket, but I think everything is now just quietened down slightly. I don't think there's going to be any moves down the straight. Gosling and Spies are running 9th and 10th as well for GSP. They're doing a good job at this stage of the race. Tom leading the way, Jensen there in third, Keki of course there in second, but Devon now really beginning to get on with things. The FER man, Joachim has probably told him to up his pace. He's probably told him that Jensen was lapping a little bit slower than him at this stage, and Devon now responding in kind. And this man, of course, qualified for F1 Esports Challenges for in the next couple of weeks. I think it's beginning next month, if I'm not mistaken. Devon now, Joachim has told him, up the pace, it's hammer time.
Yeah, indeed. Now it's the real crunch time here. We're getting towards, well, the mid part of the stint. Maybe some of them will say almost to the end of the stint, but the tires will be very, very warm towards the end if you want to pit so early on already. I feel like, if anything, about lap 15 or so is when we might start seeing pit stops. Maybe a bit later. We shall see about that. But I feel like Stefano there in P5 might be one to look out for as well, with by far the most ERS out of that train. We've got about 20%, 25% there for Devon. Under 20% actually for Jensen, and Keki in front of it is also on about 20%. Stefano, though, almost 50%, so he might be a key factor here on the strategy side for the FER team as to whether they want to do an undercut and overcut perhaps. So very, very interesting stuff here, and the same pretty much goes for that little train behind there with Ryder Dahl, Jabraka and Name Changer right behind each other as well. But somehow, 11 laps in, the top 6 still actually where they started. They stayed put since the very start of the race, and it's only below that where you can see the big changes. That is Ace Impact now picking up a second 3-second penalty. Which means both Ace drivers.
I don't think it'll be for long though, because here's your bracket to the inside line as Ryder Dahl comes right across on him, coming through Raffles Boulevard. Your bracket doesn't even care, drives it to the inside line, and now Ryder Dahl's coming back over the top of him, coming in towards the turn parade. Your bracket though saying no thank you, defending for his life like he did in PSGL, like he did last week, of course. The 7th position in the end failed, and obviously made contact with him. Beside him, Ryder Dahl looks to the inside line again. I think Grossy's just made a mistake. Spies of his operator change there into 9th. As Keki has been overtaken by Jensen. I think Jensen went for the move to the inside line of the hairpin. Keki there, completely outgunned to the inside line. Didn't really catch that. Now Devon to the inside line. I wonder if Keki's got damage, potentially.
Yep.
Right hand plate.
He does. The right-hand end plate is missing. I think he must have had a slight moment of oversteer there. Oh, for the Anderson Bridge, that was tight, but very well done there from Devon, who's now up to P3. Shame, of course, for NLR, who've been running so strong there in P2. But yeah, that's just what happens. You have to keep this rhythm up, and Jensen's pressure must have just got to Keki in that moment. And yeah, of course, very unfortunate there. Might see an early stop, but then again, he does have a bit of a gap behind, so maybe he might just wait this out. Nah, he pits in. And I suppose will be for a new set of mediums. Try to drag this to the end. He crashes. Oh no! And there, yeah, that is so unfortunate. Is that a safety car? Yes, now it's a safety car. This is going to trigger everything now on strategy.
That mechanic is looking. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just going to cut away from that.
Oh,
that was
my word.
What? I'll take time to compose myself. Go on.
Yeah, why is it always with the night races that we get out laughing all the time? I would just like to cast our minds back to Jeddah here. We've had some brilliant moments. Oh, I can't help but feel, that's so unfortunate, isn't it? But yeah. Now, of course, strategy will be important. I can now finally actually change my detail to the tire because I've had it on position change all this time. Now, well, now the situation that we thought we'd had from qualifying is restored. We have 1-2 Shizou, 3-4 FAR, and VIR following right behind. So I think now it's going to be properly with who can deliver the most consistent pace, who can maybe get away initially as well from the first few laps, and then deliver as best pace as possible to carry into this final stint. Yeah, now there's some changes going on that perhaps you wouldn't have expected, wouldn't have wanted to see in this way. But now, I think tires, they'll be dead at the end, won't they? So will there perhaps even be some drivers who think, okay, let's stay out in this situation because, yeah, the tires at the end will be very, very poor if you pit in now already, which the bottom 3, 4 indeed. Actually, Mustache is on the hard compound tires. So the bottom 3 on the mediums, they'll be suffering from very big tire, but I think, yeah, we will see all the pit stops flooding in now. The 1 and 2 combination, Jensen, I think, is backing these guys up massively now to not get affected by the stack too much. I think this could actually end up in a situation where it could be 1, 2, 3, 4 separated in a bit of a checkerboard, which, I mean, I'm not saying no to that. That's just going to invite more racing.
Radadol was very close to the back of your bracket, by the way. Apologies about my laughing fit that I've just had. It was the very scary mechanic that apparently just absolutely scared the living daylights out of me, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. But Tom leads the way from Devon there in second, Jensen there in third, and Jensen actually has been overtaken by Devon in the pit lane. Absolutely huge. Stefano, by the way, double stacked in the Ferraris. They couldn't actually manage to get that gap out a little bit further, and Stefano there in 8th is now down behind Spies, behind Name Change, and behind Ryderdal, and that is bad news for the FER boys. They'll be hoping, of course, for some really good racing throughout. I know Stefano is probably quicker than the guys ahead of him, so that will be inevitable. But Tom there leads the way, Devon there in second, Jensen there in third. I think Jensen, I'm assuming, got held up potentially by either Name Changer or Ryderdal coming out of the pit lane. And Slayer has had a 5-second penalty for crossing the white line on exit of the pit lane, which I didn't see that on the stream, so I apologise about that. But Tom leading away from Devon there in second, Jensen there in third, and Tom at 7/10 of a second here ahead of Devon. Of course, we're under the safety car at this stage. The first one of the night means that we're going to be still under an hour at least. But Tom leads the way, Devon in second, Jensen there in third. Looking to the position gains, by the way, as a result of the pit stops. Ubraka has gained 8 positions, by the way, off the race start, which is fantastic. Wow. Spies has gained 7 as well. He's been a real gainer in terms of the pit stops. Christopher Michalitzi gaining 4, and Name Changer getting 5 there as well. Impact gaining 3, 2 positions gained for Devon. That was majority, I think, in the pit lane. And 1 position gains for Ryderdal and Mustache respectively. But Tom leading the way, Devon there in second, Jensen there in third, and Maze, don't worry about me, I am back, and thank God I'm back, because that scared, honestly, the absolute living daylights out of me, that mechanic. That might just be the thumbnail for this video, who knows?
I would certainly like to see this, because I haven't caught it myself just yet, so I'll be, well...
I'm going to watch it back. I don't know how far it is back on the stream. I think it's about... Oh, there we go. It is about 4 minutes back. 4 minutes back.
4 minutes.
About 4.5 minutes back, I think it is.
Right, well, let's see. Well, now I'm interested. This has got me intrigued, properly intrigued. We are under safety car conditions on a long lap, so I can do this.
It's after Keki. It's after Keki. Right after Keki crashes in the pit lane. In the pit lane entry. It is literally... He's there. He is just there.
He just exists. Yeah. His pure existence is apparently scared the crap out of my commentator colleague here. This is...
It is... I mean, the model and everything, the model of the person just absolutely scared out of me. This is probably going to go on F1 out of context, I think, at this stage.
It has to.
It's just... The scariest
Give us a
thing.
reminder to clip this, chat, please.
Yeah, it's the scariest thing, honestly, I think I've ever seen. Keki, though, in the pit lane, we're about to say, unfortunate from him, and then that just appears on my screen. Yeah. You know how I feel in that situation. But Tom leads the way, Devon in second, Jensen there in third. Your bracket there in fourth, Radadal in fifth. Name changer Spies, Stefano, Nuth, Gustav top 10. Christmas Mikulicki, Grozny, Slayer, Mustache top 15, and Impact there's the 16th driver still going out on track. We are nearly a quarter, nearly a half of the way through here in Singapore. Hope you're all doing well, by the way. 47 of you who I know are probably tuned in now from PSGL PCF1, because Thomas Ronhover is probably winning at this stage. Tom leads the way, Devon in second, Jensen third. You have drawn at the right place at the right time, because the safety car, I believe, is going to be coming in this lap. And that means Shazoo, in a 1-3 position, Alex, is going to be absolutely pleased with that result. And Devon, he'll just be hoping that Joachim is on his game plan at this stage.
Yeah, I think the same way here. As Devon is going to be definitely going to be struggling to hold up with Tom's pace. Not because Devon would be any slower than him, but simply because of the pace that Tom has shown already in this first stint. He's managed to gap Keke almost immediately, as there is the prompt safety car is coming in. Some racing is going to be resumed fairly soon, but yeah, Tom's pace so far in this race has been downright scary, I would almost like to say. And Devon, I feel like even with how quick he is, he's won the last two on the bounce. He's going to be struggling to keep up. And then Jensen in behind. This is actually looking very, very good for Team Shazoo, even as it is with Stefano down in P8. But as Tom is now suiting up for this restart. Ooh, very interesting second half of the race coming.
It is, and hopefully nobody crashes into the pit lane exit and gives me a fright once again, as we've now embarked on the second half of this race. Tom there leading the way, now the virtual burn monitor, now the virtual safety car, and he, I think, is going to go out of turn 22, out of turn number 3. He wants to be careful because he is really backing the pack up here. Now he goes, and look at that, Jensen has got a brilliant start on the back of Devon to the inside line of turn number 1. That was planned from the Shazoo boys, and Jensen 100%. To the inside line, tries to hang it on the curb, but in the end, Devon holds second, Jensen in third, and if that was a game plan, it didn't work. Tom leads the way, Devon in second, Jensen there in third, moves happening up and down the field. Stefano's already passed Spicer, good move from him, up to 7th, Christmas dropping down the field behind Gustav, Nuth's getting ahead of Mikulicki, I think, as well, and Grozny and Slayer are side by side as well, coming out now down Ruffles Boulevard. They've been side by side, I think, the entire first sector. The Aston Martin and the Mercedes to the inside line, Grozny goes, and Grozny hangs it to the inside line. To be fair, two of them still within the white lines, and also the other Mercedes is Spicer and Gustav going at it as well. And the Gustav just about gets the job done. Spicer looks to the inside line of turn number 9, doesn't get the job done there, and Slayer holds off Grozny there for 9 and 13. But Tom leads the way, Devon in second, Jensen there in third. Really good start in the end. The Shazoo game plan, if it was a forced game plan, in the end it didn't really work, and they've just got to now think about their own races as Christmas dives it to the inside line of Spicer, and unfortunately gets caught in contact. The Mustache is hard on the wall. Mustache, I think, had to take avoidant action on his own teammate there, who'd spun second safety car of the night. Absolutely guaranteed. A Mustache there in the wall, coming out of turn 13. As I say, I think Spicer had rejoined in front of his teammate, and then he's literally had to go wrong place, wrong time, unless there was contact between him and his teammate.
I couldn't quite catch it. It was going in a very, very diffuse background there, so very, very tough to spot what had actually happened there. But of course, another safety car now. I'd expect maybe some of the guys in the mid-pack to go pit in again for some slightly fresher tires, but definitely not either of the front runners, as they'll be using way too much track position now. Anyone who's pitting basically would be dropping all the way to the back with the massive safety car delta.
Impact.
And the... Yeah, indeed, Impact. Yeah, he's down in last, so he can do this. He can probably allow himself to pit for a fresh set of mediums if he does have one. So yeah, the big pit stop delta is definitely not helping the strategy here overall, and yeah, wing damage as well. So very, very much needed pit stop, that one. And let's see quickly detail on the tires. It is not a fresh set, but it is still slightly better. It's not going to make the big difference here. Not going to make the big impact, if you will. But yeah, now it's going to be very, very interesting again. We got at least 2 laps, I suppose. We are actually going racing probably again in 2 laps, in the minimum of laps required, due to how close Impact probably still is. So at least a short safety car intervention. But after all, yeah, it just hampers the driver's rhythms as well. So whoever gets out of this the best will definitely be up with a good shot to do well in this race. And then, of course, it's a marathon, not a sprint. As I said already, it's basically going for this track almost more than any other. So very, very important now to keep their head down. And, well, if Shizou wants to try this game plan again, they're going to have to do this in a different way, I suppose. Now, I think Devin will be prepared for it.
Oh yeah, definitely so. And Impact, by the way, down in 15 did have that front wing damage. I think it was right side end plate damage on the car. So I wonder if he's actually hit the wall, maybe coming out the Anderson Bridge, and then Mustache has had to take a board in action. They got caught in each other, and Mustache was just sent straight in the wall. Not really sure what happened there. We were late to the party with that incident. But Tom leads the way from Devon there in second. Jensen there currently in third, and hopefully everything is going to go according to plan for the second half of this race. Tom is very much close to the back of Mr. Virtual Bertman, and nearly up the rear end of the German. Doesn't want to be at the rear end of a German, considering he is from Britain at the end of the day. I don't know where I'm going with that, but Tom leads the way. Devon in second, Jensen there in third. And Tom, to be fair, got a really good safety car restart, as I thought he was coming in the pit lane there. That was a bit of a fake. If he actually went past the safety car just a brief second there, could have got disqualified potentially. But Tom doesn't want to manage that. He still holds the lead of the race, as Nuth, I think, is into the pit lane. He is indeed. Nuth into the pit lane. Grozny in, Spicer in. So Mercedes double stack here as well. And just trying to see if there's anybody picking up front wing damage. Certainly Spicer, who's in the back of the field, hasn't. Nuth hasn't. Yet they're just going for fresh mediums. All for fresh medium compound tyre. And this is exactly what I said actually in PSGL F2, where drivers double stacked underneath the safety car there. Are they going to make the ground on much fresher medium compound tyres compared to everyone else? Now, if we get a safety car lap 27 out of 31, there is more likelihood of everyone going on a set of soft compound tyres. If they don't, then they've got the fresh compound tyre. But Nuth, Grozny, Spicer, are they really going to gain past Impact, Slayer, Mikulitzi on fresh compound tyre? It's pretty much impossible for them to get up to the top end of the field at least.
Yeah, indeed. I think the tyre difference, it is pretty significant, even though 4 laps may not seem like too much, particularly on this track. But the tyre wear is really, really coming into effect big time. So they will be having a lot more pace, but unlocking that grip through the braking zones that really aren't the longest. First of all, there aren't very many long braking zones that you can really throw a car up the inside of and just think, yes, now this is going to stick. Yeah, this is particularly tough, I think, around Singapore. The only tougher one I can imagine pretty much is Monaco. So, yeah, I think for the drivers, it is a smart move. You have a better chance, but it's almost negated by the fact that Singapore is just the way it is. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to make this ground up. They'll certainly try their best. They have the best weapons now. They have the best tires, but yeah, the racecraft and basically the events of the drives ahead will now have to decide everything about how they can make these moves stick. Safety car now coming in. So Shizou Tom takes over Bernd Mailander's task there at the front of the grid. And will we see a repetition of the first one? We shall find out in just a few seconds' time.
Well, judging by when the safety car is actually coming in, I think he will do exactly the same. Be like a Mugello sort of style start, I think, from him. Coming around the final couple of corners, of course, on the run towards the line. Devon, though, is going to be right underneath his rear wing. And don't be surprised that Devon will be there. He definitely will be. If it's anything like the Netherlands, he was so strong in that second half of the race compared to the first. But he has got to put the Brit, the PSGL F1 man, under pressure. PSGL F2 man in behind as well, and another PSGL F1 man there in third. So he's got to really try this. As now comes out the final corner on the run to the line, and look at Jensen already. Jensen now getting the slipstream again. Absolutely masterful from the Shizou boys as Jensen dives into the inside line. Oh, and I think Tom was actually going to let him through in towards turn number 1. And this is team tactics. There's a spinner in the background. Name changer Stefano being caught up in a collision. Absolutely great from a Shizou perspective. They don't really need to do anything. Devon though to the inside line of turn number 5, just about trying to hang it on the inside line, on the outside line for Jensen. Now down Raffles Boulevard. We'll get this from your brackets perspective. Devon now on the outside line for Memorial Corner at turn number 7. Tries to hang it all the way around the outside. Tom again trying to put the box effect in. Devon though having to try and find Jensen leading deep into the wall. This is the Shizou masterclass at this stage. Jensen in second. Now Devon to the inside line. Tries to get Tom for second. Jensen though into the lead. Tom in second. How on earth they pulled that off, I do not know. There's a big crash in the wall from Grozny, I think, in the background. Impact certainly got caught up in that as well, but still continues on. Jensen in the lead. Tom in second. Devon there in third. Still under racing, under green flag racing. Shizou boys, I don't know. That was Yeah. I don't know. Jensen leads, Tom second, Devon in third. Right along the back of your bracket. Is it going to come to the inside line? No. But Jensen, Tom, Shazoo plan has worked, finally. But to what cost and what effect? Because that was pretty ridiculous.
Can I just point out, Stefanos restarted this in P7, dropped down all the way to the back to do a spin, and is now back into P9. That just says how much has happened on this half a lap alone as a name changer as well. He's also involved in that spin. Gustav has damage there. I can see that as so close to this final sector. Oh, can I make this work? Name changer's through.
They were side by side underneath the grandstand, for goodness sake. That was unbelievable. Name changer there in 10th. Gustav, though, into the pit lane, as you rightfully mentioned. Left side end plate damage on the car. Nuth also into the pit lane, and Christmas looking for an early Christmas present to the inside line of turn number 1. Doesn't get the job done on Crosney in the end. But Jensen leads the way. Tom in second. Devon there in third. Your own saying full-on brake checking. Yeah, it was a box effect. That's literally how I could describe that plan. It was an absolute box effect. They tried it on the first restart. It didn't work. They tried on the second restart. 90% of the time, it didn't work. In the end, it has done. Rather fortunate as Jabraka picks up a penalty there, 3 seconds. Rather fortunate, I've got to say, from a Shazoo perspective. That could have easily ended in tears. Honestly, these guys know what they're capable of individually. I think they should just stick to being individuals rather than following their team.
Yeah, I think so as well. So Jensen has actually ended up in the lead out of this. I've just realized that one. There's Jensen in P1 now from Tom. As Tom, he did have the stronger pace, but now they find themselves reversed. Maybe this is even better still for them. But indeed, the standards, they weren't quite the best there, as it was a big box effect, as you pointed out. But all this swapping has almost enabled some of these lower guys, as Jabraka and Ryderdal, some of these drivers to almost get up there as well, with these massive fightings going on. Now, yeah, this is now going to be very hard. Impact finds himself in P6 out of all this, so that just says everything about what kind of impact this restart has made.
That's terrible. That is really bad. Impact though in 6, Slayer there in 7. Slayer though is trying to slay his opposition ahead of him. Up into the left-hander of turn number 22, to the left-hander of 23. We're back at the DRS, I think, on this lap around as well. But Jensen leads Tom in second, Devon there in third. Game plan now for Shazoo, easy. Try and defend off Devon. Devon has got about 30% less ERS than Tom, which is to the advantage of the Shazoo boys. But they've got to be careful. If they want to pull off a plan, they've got to do it A, fairly, and B, within the rights and means of the rules and regulations. Slayer on the back of Impact, though, is going to try and make a move done in towards turn number 7. Had to pick one side and just rear-ends him. What on earth was he thinking there? And rear-ends him again in towards turn number 7, and that's not the way to try and get past there from Slayer, unless it was a bit of desync potentially on his end. Slayer there through and he's into 6. Impact there in 7, and that was not the desired impact, certainly, that Slayer had in mind.
No, definitely not. No, as he was looking, he had a very good run there out of turn 5, but then I'm not too sure. I think Impact, is he potentially having some issues here, some damage again, as he's already dropping down 1.1 seconds. His tires are fresher, so it's not that. It must be something related to his car, as he cannot find any kind of pace. I think Stefano will try to pounce on this. Now using some of the battery down the Esplanade. Can he go down the inside? No, holds back. Now tries to switch back perhaps, just cutting in an earlier line. But I don't think he can make this work in this final sector. I think Stefano's now going to suffer through this final sector, unless he finds a way through. Ooh, very deep there. Can he make this work? No, he's not going to go for that. He's definitely experienced enough to know where to go for an overtake, unless an avenue opens up, of course, with a mistake. With that damage ahead, it doesn't look all too quick for Impact. He's just trying to limp home at this point, but still 10 laps to go. This is going to be a very long 10 lap.
It is going to be a very long 10 laps, especially for you Shazoo boys. Jensen leads the way, Tom in second, Devon there in third, doing a good job. Nuth is picking up a penalty further down the field. He's well out of contention after picking up damage along with Gustav involved in an instant. I think that was coming out of turn number 7, if I'm not mistaken. Stefano, though, on the back of Impact, is now looking to try and outdo Impact down in towards Memorial Corner. This should be easy on pace from the FDR man, and look at the speed that he's got compared to Impact. Impact just pulls to the left-hand side of the road, tries to defend, not good enough. Stefano doing he's into 7th very easily indeed. Now he's in clear air. What can the FDR man do? What can the former championship leader and PSGL F2 do from last season as well? Stefano there in 7th. Now he's been let loose by Impact. Stefano, the FDR team, if they've got any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, he's definitely got a good shot at the top 5, perhaps even.
Sorry,
what's that?
there we are. We're fine. We're fine. I thought my
No
I thought
problem.
my laptop was dying, but there we are. It's good.
Oh, yeah, I think Stefano with some very good pace at this moment. But yeah, with the penalties coming in, also for Jabraka and Slayer, I think a top 5, perhaps even a top 4, which is basically damage limitation then for FBR, is still on the cards for Stefano. It just really depends on how this whole DRS thing is going to pan out, because the top 4 are within DRS range. Ryderdal is just falling out of it now. He's going to have to try his best now through these first 3 turns to get back into that range. But can he do it? Can the McLaren man do it there for ETM? Don't think so. I think he's just outside of range now, unless he uses all of that battery. No, he's out. So the top 4 at the moment are the ones controlling this field. Jabraka just holding on there at the back as well. But Stefano, wow, 1.3 seconds. It was 2 seconds almost at the end of the lap. 1.4 already. Yeah, he's catching a lot. He's a man on a mission. He's trying to get the most points possible for FBR. As that is, name changer there around the outside. Easy pass. No worries there for the NLR man. P8 now for the moment, and he's currently actually in P7 on penalties. Tough stuff here. Yeah.
That was never going to work from Christmas in the background of shot, by the way. He absolutely sent that on Grozny to the inside line. I think he not intentionally, forced him off Grozny, saying, thank you very much, and Christmas says, you're welcome, there we are, job done. That's how you sort things out on track. Unlike you go to the steward's room for the Shazoo and the FBR boys, like they will be doing later on. Jensen out on top, Tom in second, Devon there in third. Christmas, though, looks quicker than Grozny at this stage. On those 10-lap medium compound tyres, but a snap there from the TTG man on the run now down into the right-hander of turn number 14. In the end, doesn't get the job done, though, at this stage. Jochen, by the way, engineer for FBR, is in the chat saying this was intentionally dangerous on Wreckfest. It would have been good, Joey. Yeah, I've got to be honest. I agree from the FBR perspective here. It looked as if it was tactical. I knew what was going to happen, and Tom. Yeah. I think the way he tried to pull it off, he was on the outside line, but on the outside line, you get thrown off the camber of the corner, and it was never going to work anyways, because you're getting thrown off the camber on the sausage curb on the outside. Devon was always going to try and thread the eye of the needle and go through the middle of both of them. It didn't work, and then in the end, they do tactics again, coming in towards turn 7, then through turn 8, and just then, it got the job done, but these guys know better. I mean, come on. Shazoo and FBR are 2 very professional teams with very professional drivers. I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I would say so as well. It was a very, very on-edge move, a set of moves, in fact. But then again, I've only seen it the one time. I've only seen the one angle of it. So I'm not going to go comment too early on what was happening down there. But yeah, certainly it wasn't looking like the overly cleanest, even though we knew what was going to happen. It was well planned. It just wasn't to the cleanest execution, in my opinion. So yeah, certainly we would like to see some higher standards overall with with these professionals really going at it here. As yeah, Ryderdal now out of the top 4. Ooh, close stuff.
Christmas!
This is very tight.
Christmas to the inside line at turn number 13, tries to get the job done. I don't know what I'm shouting out there. Spicer though with the inside line on impact, gets the job done. And Christmas sends it from an absolute mile back to the inside line. Nearly puts him in the wall. But I tell you what, the gap was there. He had to try and go for that. And to be fair, he pulled it off. And in the end, Christmas through and he's in 11th. Grozny there in 12th. Did get the job done. I wonder if Grozny's potentially got a bit of damage on that car, because he's not responding at all to Christmas in behind. And Christmas is on 5 lap all the tyres at this stage of the race. By the way, it's getting a little bit interesting up in front. Devon now beginning to try and catch Tom. Tom trying to catch Jensen there as well. These 2, Tom and Jensen, by the way, I know have had a very good individual battle around you. And Singapore as your Bracker was very sideways in the background there, coming through turn number 3. But Devon now on the back of Tom. Jochen was probably instructed to hell with this. If this is going to the steward's room, we're going to have to try and fight this on track. And Devon there has to now try and put up that fight. If I was in Jochen's shoes right now, I'd literally be saying, it's hammer time. Go and get them 2 boys out on track and guess what, rightfully ours out on track, and that might be that race win. But the Shazoo boys will put up that stoic defence. That is the big question here. Will they put up that stoic defence? Because Jensen is using a more EOS. I now think, though, Tom is quicker than him out on track, and this is telling. Looking through the Anderson Bridge, Tom is much quicker than Jensen compared to him. And now, are they going to pull off a potential switcheroo with Ryderdal on the back of your Bracker? What on earth is happening to your Bracker? Oh, he's lost his front wing. That's what's happened to your Bracker. No, not sure how he's done that whatsoever. But Jensen leads Tom in second, Devon there in third. Now the Shazoo tactics once again are on. Rodolfo into fourth. Yabraka there in fifth. Nearly goes straight on to turn 14. But again, like he did with right side end-plate damage on the car, or left side end-plate damage on the car last week, no front wing, he's going to have to try and defend those positions, but he will have to come in the pit lane.
Yeah, he will definitely pit from that. I don't expect him in his right mind to stay out with this. And now I think I'd assume even some medium tires still. It might still be too early for softs.
Slayer tried to hang it on, that was never going to work. Never going to work. Around the outside of 21. It's so difficult to go side by side through there at the best of times. Yabraka, by the way, just completely cut the pit lane entry. He's luckily into the pit lane now, not causing a safety car as Keki did a little bit earlier on. But Yabraka there, into the pit lane, front wing damage completely on the car. Unfortunately for Slayer, he's also got front wing damage, no front wing whatsoever. He's in the pit lane, and now we're back to square one between them both.
Completely unnecessary move, I think, from him. He could have, well, of course it would have hurt him slightly, but just waiting that 1-2 more corners and he would have been clean through. Now he's down in last. I was about to say pretty much how well he was doing up in P6, I believe it was, which would have become P5 with Yabraka's stop. And now he's finding himself right at the back of the field. And actually promotes Name Change now up to P6, who's right on the back of Stefano, who himself is up to P5. Remember, he had a spin right at the start of the safety car. Right at the safety car restart, I should say. And he's now up to P5 again. So this is just how quick these can go. Name Changer looks to the inside. Very audacious, but now Spicer might be looking for something.
Yeah, Spicer might spy a gap down in towards turn number 14. But in the end, Name Changer, a Leopard doesn't change its spots. It's there in 6th position. Spicer there in 7th. And Name Changer trying to look for the move there. Didn't quite get the job done. And if he was going to have a name change, potentially, to NLR Stefano, potentially he'll be his next name. But Jensen out on top, Tom there in second, Devon there in third. Name Changer still not giving up with this fight. They're in P6, Spicer there in P7, doing a fantastic job there at this stage. Of course, the former F1 Esports Challengers man up against, I think, Stefano, who has, I believe, qualified for the F1 Esports Challengers series, if I'm not mistaken. There are a couple of drivers that are that have qualified, I do believe. I know Tom certainly has. I think Jensen has as well. So the Shazoo boys are trying to really maximise on that, and they've got to show, really. Any teams that might be looking at the Red Bull Esports team, for example, they could be looking right now and saying, these guys could potentially be our future. And if they are in the chat, welcome along first and foremost. But second of all, let them know what you really think about that battle against FBR and come back to me on that one. But Jensen leads the way, Tom in second, Devon there in third. Name Changer wasn't quite close enough to the back of Stefano that time around. But Jensen now all of a sudden begin to find pace again. Not really sure where he's finding this pace from. Tom there in second, Devon in third, across the Anderson Bridge. Beautiful helicopter camera, by the way, across the Anderson Bridge. But Devon doesn't seem like he's got the pace of the Shazoo boys now. And this, for the FER boys, is, I wouldn't say disappointing. He's still there. He can easily come back at these guys. But the way it's going to happen, obviously Jensen and Tom are going to play mind games as Tom has picked up a 3-second penalty. And that just opens things completely open.
I feel like this could be time for a Shazoo swap now to try to somehow try to get Tom outside of 3 seconds now, and Jensen will try to defend for all of his life now against Devon to try and keep this 1 and 2 position. But now that of course makes it much more difficult. Just 5 more laps to go. They don't have much time to decide on this, and you never know. I'm just actually going to check the warning situation for Jensen because I'm that curious. And yeah, this is certainly going to be very difficult now. Jensen, in fact, has no warnings at all, so he can pretty much throw everything at it here. And yeah, Tom, ooh, tough stuff. Of course, it will still be an extension to the championship lead as it stands right now. But I think the swap is now going on, and it's very clear. Jensen lets his teammate by, and exactly this is what Shazoo now need. And yeah, there's going to be cruise control, I'm pretty sure, from Jensen now to keep Devon behind.
I definitely think so, but I've got to really argue this point towards everyone reading the comment section. Is Tom really going to find 3 seconds on Jensen and Devon? I doubt it. I really do doubt it. It's 0.7 of a second right now. He's having to use up all of his battery pretty much to good effect. At this stage, he's got more pace than Jensen. Again, coming back to what I said about, 3 laps ago, I think, at this stage, I think that move should have happened sooner. He could have been easily 3 seconds ahead and then benefited from that 3-second penalty when he was still pulling away from Jensen and Devon. I think Shazoo might have missed a trick there, and that could come back to bite them completely on the backside in the final couple of laps of this race. Final 5 laps of this race it will be. But Tom is a second clear. He's now in clear air, but Jensen is going to have to try and stick within that DRS range to try and defend off Devon. If not, and Tom gets him outside of a second, Shazoo with Jensen are certainly in big trouble.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. If there was to be any tacticking now going on without DRS for Jensen, this is extremely hard for them to pull off. Just 4 laps to go. There's going to have to be some crazy last sector Perez driving going on if there was to be any kind of stuff like this. Slayer there, I think, at the back has spun around. Unfortunately, out of competition now. They're in 15th and about 40 seconds behind Jabraka. As I'm not too sure what to hold of this in general. As Marcel now pits in there from P10. Shazoo have got a big task on their hands, and I think Devon will be told by Joachim to just throw everything at it that he possibly can, but the battery, I think, might just trouble him on that task. He's under 10%, he's at 5%, Jensen's got about 25, Tom is on about 20, using about everything he can possibly use, so, this is very tough for the Shazoo drivers. Crispers now to the inside of Impact, gets that move done. This is a bit of contact, but P8 still, and in fact, still a fairly solid result then for TTG in this competition. And the Singapore Grand Prix definitely has delivered so far.
Definitely so. Shazoo, by the way, will be extending their championship lead as it stands, without any stewards penalties potentially coming in. If not, though, they have driven, I've got to say, Devon has driven a very fair race. Ryder down now puts a 3-second penalty, and now pressure is on. Both Devon and Jensen not to pick up a 3-second penalty at this stage. Of course, we're going on to lap 29 out of 31. Unless, unfortunately, we don't have Schumacher here tonight like PSGL F2, so we can't have a purposeful safety car at the stage. Tom leads the way, Jensen in second, Devon there in third. Devon there on the back though of Jensen. He really now has to try and put the Brit under pressure. Jensen does not have pace compared to Tom. The only thing that's keeping him in it is that DRS range. His name changer has spun, coming out of turn 21, and I think actually, I wonder if Spicer might have had a little bit of contact there with him on a follow-up. I'm not sure what led to that, but I think name change, the way I saw it, I think he got caught in the curb and spun round. But looking at his front wing, he's fine. So maybe the case where Spicer might have just tapped the rear end and sent him spinning round. Who knows? I didn't catch that really on stream, but Spicer on the back of Stefano is now at battle for P5 and P6, and Stefano looked like he had really good pace. When he was launched and literally released in free air, he looked like he could catch the guys ahead. He's not really made much inroads, and the DRS range around here is so potent. He has not gained any amount of time. In fact, he's lost, nearly 5 seconds, I think, to Rodadell in that stage. And Spicer there in 6th, doing a good job. For Tom, leading the way. Jensen in 2nd, Devon there in 3rd. Devon trying to switch back out of turn number 13. Doesn't work, though. He's way too far back. 5 tenths away. You're never going to get that one done unless you're going to just dive from it to the inside line and put your opponent in a wall. Then you could, but these guys know better than that. I know they're better than that as well. As Spicer will certainly know he's better than that and might be passing the FBR man on the run down in towards turn number 14. Oh my god, he nearly went in the back of him.
Yeah, Spicer, I feel like, Stefano is, he must have had some kind of damage or whatever, because I figured out the same thing. It was so tight that Spicer's so close to the back.
Jensen's outside of DRS range for the first time. Jensen is outside of DRS range for the first time. He's literally just got back within a second, but Tom now beginning to pressure that on. And now is what I think is going to happen coming true. Jensen has to try and defend off Devon for that second position. He has got to literally defend for every his might. He's defending thin air, because Devon's nowhere really near at this stage, but a big moment in the race. Jensen again outside of DRS range. Devon inside of DRS range. Hasn't got the speed to try and catch, though.
Yeah, I think this could just be what Shazoo need to at least secure this 1-2 on the road. And pre-Stewards, of course, the provisional 1-2 would be secure, I think, in this way. If he can now manage to get the last sector, I think the last sector is going to be the most crucial part here. There's barely any overtaking opportunities there. Tom has also got almost no ERS. They're almost at the same thing here. And yeah, this is now going to be very, very, very difficult for them to pull off. Marcel Grozny now at the back pulls up the fastest lap on fresh soft tires. But now I think cruise control will be fully activated for all three of them. None of them have ERS whatsoever. Tom is going to have to be pushing for all of his life to try and get this. And oh, Jensen. Well, I'm very curious as to how this final sector is going to look.
I'm really curious as to how this final sector is going to look because Tom, Jensen, they can't pull off the block effect as they did a little bit earlier on in the race. Spicer, by the way, still looking on the back of Stefano. Could be a last lap gas move for the GSP man on the back of Stefano. He's still not quite close enough. Well, he is close enough, but he just can't. He doesn't want to go for the move, basically, is what I'm trying to say. As Devon on the back of Jensen, once again, outside of a second. Slayer into the pit lane. That will be him done because he's not going to get a final lap, unfortunately, because look, there goes Tom past him. Tom as Slayer picks up a 5-second penalty for crossing the pit lane exit, and now he's behind the guys, and he wanted to try and go for the fastest lap attempt. In the end, that didn't work, and in the end, it didn't really work because he was on a set of medium compound tyres anyways. But Tom leads the way, Jensen second, final lap here in Singapore, just shy of an hour I think this race is going to be on for. But Jensen has actually managed to gap now Devon to 7/10 per second. Nothing really happening there. It's the battle for P5 that's going to be the interesting one. Spicer and Stefano, and also your Bracker and Gustav further down the field. 12th and 13th position to watch out for as well. As now Spicer looks to try and come on the back of Stefano. Down the straight, down Memorial Corner. He's not going to get the job done as your Bracker has gone through on Gustav through turn number 1.
Yes, he has indeed. Clean move there from the German. Unfortunate race for him. What a shame. Again, it has just not gone very well for BIR. But now I think the crunch time is going to happen up front. 2 seconds, the gap between Tom and Jensen. This is going to be a last sector climax. Kind of overtaking zone.
Oh.
This is exactly what I thought we were going to see. He's going to defend to the inside, surely.
Oh, he hits the wall.
Oh,
he hits the wall with the left side wheel to the left-hand side. Coming out and Devon's done. Devon has a slide. That is done, I think. Tom through the final couple of corners. Do you know what? It's actually worked to perfection. Tom through the final couple of corners on the run to the line. Wins here in Singapore. Or does he? No, he doesn't.
Oh,
he doesn't.
Wow.
Jensen takes the win. It's a 10th of a second. I think that might be a game glitch. I don't know for sure because it didn't really show up on my screen, but regardless, it's a Shazoo 1-2, however you look at it. But that could come back to bite him after the earlier tactics, earlier shenanigans that happened earlier on in the race. That could come back to bite him if they are found guilty, of course, of that. But Jensen takes the win on our screen. I think it's Tom that takes the win by a 10th of a second. I think that is the wrong way around. I think it's Tom that wins. Jensen second. Devon there in third. Spicer, by the way, still didn't get through on Stefano in the end. And speaking of getting through, Gustav jumps at your Bracker in terms of penalties, and Grozny now towards the final couple of corners. I think he's already got the fastest laps. It doesn't really matter. On the run to the line, finishes in 14th. The GSP man pick up the extra point for the team there as well, which is always good to see. As we've reached the end of a very climactic Singapore Grand Prix. Spicer gets driver of the day, awarded by the in-game fans. And quite rightfully so, we did really well, I was going to say, in that race. Fought, of course, with Stefano, who just didn't have the pace. Of course, he got spun a little bit early on, and then his tyres just fell off the cliff at the end of the race. But Shazoo, take that 1-2 in the order that is wrong on our screen. It is Jensen who takes the top step of the podium here at least, and he's now going to just nonchalantly skip his way to the top step of the podium. A great win from the Shazoo boys, but what they did earlier on could come back to bite them, and they could get punished for that for sure.
Yeah, we shall see after the investigations, of course. We will have a look at it. For now, we see 1 and 2 of AlphaTauri, like we've seen in round 1, Jensen on top with his teammate there, Tom, in second. A British 1-2 in the end as well. Might as well point that one out too. And if we just look at these fast laps as well, the gap's so tight between all these drivers. Very, very good stuff from everyone up and down the field. And Spicer there in P6, like you said, is pretty much one of the standout performances here. Very good performance. I think best result for GSP as well for this season.
Definitely so. It is Jensen out on top on our screen from Tom there in second, but I think it's the other way around. It should be Tom from Jensen, then Devon there in third, Rydell there in fourth, Stefano there in fifth, Spicer there in sixth, name change in seventh, Christmas there, early Christmas run for him in eighth, Impact in 9th, Mikulicki in 10th, Nuth in 11th, Gustav there in 12th, Bracket 13th, Grozny in 14th, Slade did finish there down in 15th, the lap down. Mustache, Keki, Marlon and Ginger in the end did not finish out on track, and that was a shame from their perspective because, of course, they truly deserved, I think, a point scoring finish in the end. They DNF'd out on track, a couple of safety cars as well, and all hell breaks loose in Singapore, quite literally. But to remind everyone of what is going to be coming up for the final 2 weeks of the calendar, we go to Austin, Texas in 2 weeks' time in Austin, and of course for the Circuit of the Americas. And then we have our final race in Brazil. Apologies, by the way, if you can't see the text on the bottom. It is a little bit small. I had to try and fit that on a graphic that was not suited whatsoever to try and show it. But Austin Austin in 2 weeks' time, of course. Our next break week, of course, next week for EML. How do we see the racing in the USA happen? Because technically, Shazoo, if they keep that 1-2, could actually wrap up the team's championship.
Yep, I think fairly soon that could actually be the case. And, well, Austin, one of my forced personal favorites due to being a two-time race winner there in PSGL. I do quite like the track in general, also for the racing perspective. But at the same time, the undercut on that track, and so the strategy in general, is going to be very, very crucial, because while you do gain loads and loads of time on the undercut, it's going to come back to bite you towards the end of the race. So you're going to have to really have a look at how you want to be properly gaining the time on these sets of tires that you have to be burning through. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff to be also decided on the track. The track limits aren't 100% on here either. So yeah, a lot of that might also be decided on the penalty front. But yeah, with how Shazoo are looking right now, we've had 2 wins on the trot from FBR after the break week, and now they've come back right here with a 1-2 in Singapore. This is going to be a tough ask for FBR to come back out of that one. But for all I know, they'll give it their best. They were runners-up already. Actually, no, we were runners-up, apologies. They were the champions 2 NLR last season. So we know their mettle, we know their racecraft, we know how well they can do. And so a big fight is going to be put up. And you never know. More teams can get involved in this as well, as we've seen today. This is always great to look forward to. And yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, you never know indeed. And also more action to come on Friday night as well. Powered by ET8, of course, it is the Esports Challengers Cup. And round one qualifying night, by the way, didn't happen. Round 1 of the championship begins on the 10th of March. Nathan Richards and more games. Connell Moore taking to the action, of course, on Friday. And that, I believe, is at 9 p.m. Very, very late indeed. Almost as late as the Eurovision Song Contest, but we won't go there. Bahrain, round 1 of the championship in, 2 days' time. So it is going to be very good to see the racing out on track. Of course, that is PC only. 10 teams that have been confirmed, by the way, for the lineups. I can report that the lineup is now open, so if you do want to get your PC drivers in, the 10 teams that are going to be competing are, when I have a look at them, there we are. Ferrari are in the Ferrari is Talent Factory. In the Red Bull, it is F1 Friends Cup. In the Mercedes, it is Team TF10. In the McLaren, it is FER Esports. In the Alpine, it is ET8 Esports. Haas, represented by Valor Gaming. Alfa Romeo, represented by Team Shazoo. AlphaTauri by TTL Esports. Williams by NLR Esports. And the Aston Martin team, of course, represented by Team QRT. I didn't have that graphic up because there is no existing graphic for the driver lineup and the team lineup for the PC.
Indeed.
So I have to just read that out from the get-go. But, of course, we are going to be back next week, or in 2 weeks' time, I should say, for EML Premier 1. I really hope you enjoyed this stream. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, tick the notification bell, of course, if you're brand new to the channel. We are going to see you once again in 2 weeks' time in Circuit of the Americas, in Austin, Texas. Stefano's saying as well, by the way, in the chat, what we did in Austria was clean. Joey, are you on steroids or what? And I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching for myself and Alex. Yeah, mic drop completely. Thank you so much for watching. We'll play the background music as well at the end. And, of course, our advert from Next Level Racing. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.